Turn this fan off. It's probably so my work office. The air conditioner went out, so it's in the balmy 80 something degrees here. So gotta try to get that fixed before I go home tomorrow. But glad to see you all. Normal Merrick Show, Rob Nor, blah 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 blah. Sorry again to any of my audience that's watching this after the fact, because no one's watching right now. That I'm not on Twitch and other places. Again, I don't know how to multi-stream using my phone. Seeing as how I work absurd hours, this this is what you get. So tomorrow I get to go home. There's just not enough hours in the day, man. It really isn't. So tomorrow, I'll leave work around 2. Then it takes about 40 minutes to drive to where I have to do physical therapy. I'll get there, do the physical therapy. By the time that ends, I'll probably be getting home around 5 p.m., hopefully in time to have dinner with my wife and son. Then at 6 o'clock, I have a panel, and I'll be debating. That'll probably go till 9. So I hate Wednesdays. I hate when that sort of thing happens, because all I want to do is go home and see my family, and I get to walk in the door and go, hey, how you doing? I got to go upstairs and do a panel. So yay. But it should be a fun panel, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about Joe Biden. Is he going to drop out? I don't know how long I'll stream tonight. I do have some work stuff to do before I get to bed. But I figure why not? Why not to get on here? If I got to be sweltering without air conditioning, might as well be talking to my audience. So hope you all are having a great week. It's been a good one. We're in Cope Week version 2. We're on week 2 of Cope Week. And I think you're finally starting to see some of these people calm down. I'm still predicting that there's about a 50% chance. I'd put it slightly over 50 that Biden's not the eventual nominee. Because let's assume right now, today, that they've decided, look, we wanted Biden to go. He won't go. We're not going to pull the nuclear option and like really unleash a bunch of dirt on him to force his hand. We're going to try to rally behind him. Let's assume. Thank you so much, Nicholas. I appreciate the super chat. I am well. Thank you. I am doing well. Despite the fact my back's killing me and all of that good stuff. I'm very happy. Just 40-year-old man stuff. So I get to go home tomorrow and see my family. So should be a good week. I'm looking forward to it. Even if you buy that right now he's weathered the storm, the problem is, what if he has another disastrous public event like the debate, which seems increasingly likely that that sort of thing will happen again if he speaks in public. Imagine the people surrounding Joe Biden, the people that are depending on him maintaining that office for them to control power. So Biden's family that has enriched themselves selling access to Joe Biden and his wife, and the inner circle that sort of maintains power through Joe Biden. Imagine what they're feeling knowing, like, listen, we have to send this dude out there, at least some, and every time they send him out there just holding their breath, like, I mean, it's got to be a crazy feeling. Now, they'll have insurance. There'll be a lot coming up, manipulation of algorithms, stories that leak from the intel community, the mainstream media going all in against Trump, etc. Yeah, one of my favorite stories this week was it John Kirby in a press conference said, Biden next week's going to do a big boy press conference. Wow. You know, my son, Hank, is 3 years old, and obviously he's a 3-year-old. He has a car seat. We call it the big boy seat. I wonder if Joe Biden has a big boy seat, too. Isn't that inspire confidence? Hey, he's going to have a big boy press conference. And if he does well, we'll get him some chocolate chip ice cream on the way out. Won't that be great? Wow, that's the leader of the free world there, giving a big boy press conference. Woo! Wow, that really makes me feel good about the direction things are going. Fantastic. So it'll be interesting. I still think there's a slightly better than not chance inevitably he gets removed. And I've been saying this for a long time. I think up to a point, the later they remove him, the better it is for them, because whoever they replace him with is going to get an initial enthusiasm bump. This is true at this point in all of our politics. With some very slight exceptions, Trump might be an exception. But basically, everyone's best day is the day they're announcing they're running. And then it starts to go downhill after that because the more people vet you and find out what you're about, the worse off it becomes for you. And because our politics is so negative at this point, basically the Democratic side's running against Trump and the Republican side's running against Biden. I don't know that there's a lot of enthusiasm. I mean, there's certainly a lot of enthusiasm with Trump supporters, but there's a lot of people that'll vote for Trump that aren't super enthusiastic that it's Trump. And I don't know that there's many enthusiastic Biden supporters whatsoever. There are people that are rallying behind him, but you know, I just feel that ultimately anyone that they would replace him for would bring a short-term injection of enthusiasm. So if that occurs in August and then early voting starts and the story becomes for a month or two, oh, Kamala Harris, oh, Pete Buttigieg, oh, Gavin Newsom, there won't be a lot of time to mount attacks against that person. Now, there's questions of the legality of how you could do those sorts of things. I'm not delving into that today, but yeah, it's interesting. I think if it was possible, an empty ticket is the best ticket for both Republicans and Democrats at this point. You just generic Republican, generic Democrat. And I think that ultimately, because everybody's just running on the other side, Project 2025, and, you know, the disastrous Biden administration. So it'll be interesting. I think it's funny when you listen to these Democrats. I mentioned this the other day. They always just assert, like, you know, they'll assert things. And it's actually a very interesting persuasion trick, right? When you get crushed on something, even if you did poorly in a different area, perceptually, you could make it seem like you did good in that area. So, for example, in the debates, Biden optically looks terrible because he's having a senior moment, to put it politely. And so what was the narrative that came out? Well, he did terribly, but at least he told the truth. Trump lied about everything. Now, that's not true. And we've talked about this. We've talked about how there are different types of lies. There's exaggerating how good your economy was or how little or how big deficits are, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's lies like Biden told, like, the reason I ran for president was Trump said Nazis was fine people, which he didn't. It was a provable lie, you know, which is more damaging than any of the lies that either of them were accused of on the stage that night. But because they're very good at controlling the narrative, the Democrats and sort of their media apparatchik, they're able to take something that's just verifiably not true, that Biden told the truth the whole time, which isn't true, and they're able to make it seem that way because they're admitting that he looked bad optically. And this is an interesting persuasion trick, that if you could admit that you're wrong about something or that you've lost something, it gives you more credence to say that, but I won in this other area. And so that's sort of the thing they're trying to do. Another thing that they're doing like this is they just assert, they're like, well, Biden administration, I can't believe how many times I've heard this. Biden's when it comes to policies, the best president in our lifetime. Really? Oh, his record is phenomenal. His administration's been phenomenal. But that's not true, is it? In fact, his record sucks. And I've debated people over and over on this. And I understand that, yeah, every month when the job numbers come out and they say, look at that, look at the job numbers. If you just look at the surface level, you're like, oh boy, job numbers look good. Problem is, I think it was 10 out of the last 13 months, those got revised downward, many times to missing expectations. Then when you look at the specifics of those jobs, many of them are government jobs, which isn't sustainable. Almost all of the jobs that have been created have gone to foreign-born people, which means that if you were a person here in the United States, you're not seeing a lot of benefit from that job creation. A lot of it's part-time jobs, and we're losing full-time jobs. Many of those jobs came about because, admittedly, Trump that stood back while lockdowns were going down. But let's not kid ourselves, the Democrats who even more strongly push those lockdowns, they lock us down, they kill a bunch of jobs, and then they say, oh boy, you could go back to work. Look, we created jobs. No, I don't agree with Destiny that Trump attempted a coup. Could I do an analysis on UK politics? I could. It'd be shit because I don't know much about UK politics. It's very similar to US politics in the sense that you have a uniparty system where the Tories basically pretended to be conservative, But on the big issues, such as foreign policy, immigration, they basically agree with Labor, the far left party. And so it seemed to be not so much, if you looked at the numbers, it's not that Labor picked up a bunch of support. It's that the Tories just lost support like crazy. It's the same's true in France. And I think you're starting to see this. I think people are waking up probably too late that these countries are losing their identity. And this is something that I've said forever, that the goal of these globalists is to erode national identity. They want sort of a globalist government. And the biggest impediment to that is national identity, particularly in countries where there's a strong middle class. So they want to erode national identity in the middle class. They want haves and have-nots, and they'll be the haves and you'll be the have-nots, and you'll have to rely on them for anything, food, housing, etc. So they're more than happy to pay you welfare. They're more than happy to, they don't want you self-sufficient. That's not what they want. And so when you look at it that way, all of a sudden things today like Democrats coming out against the SAVE Act, why wouldn't you want to make sure that illegals can't vote? Well, because they want illegals to vote. As Chuck Schumer told you not that long ago, he was giving a press conference. He said, ultimately, the goal is a path to citizenship for all these people. That's right. And they constantly, and the problem is, and it's something that you have to see throughout to understand, these establishment people, and in particular people that are leftists or embrace the ideas and the rhetoric of the left, reported for anti-Semitism, thank you, embrace the sort of rhetoric of the left, they feel that they're better than you. They feel they're morally superior to you. So it's not like me or you. Me or you would be ashamed to blatantly bald-faced lie. Even if it would advance our political ideology, we wouldn't do that. That doesn't mean that I don't say things that end up not being true. That doesn't mean that I'm factually incorrect at times. That doesn't mean that I don't have a bias. All of that's true. But I'm not going to sit here and come on and say, oh, Mitch McConnell, people think that there's something medically wrong with Mitch McConnell. No, I don't see it. No, I don't see it. I wouldn't do that. It's asinine. It's ridiculous. My personal integrity in selling out like that isn't worth it. But they don't mind that. They'll lie right to your face. So they'll tell you over and over again, of course, the Great Replacement theory, that's a racist conspiracy theory. Racist conspiracy. But then you can see them all the time when they're talking amongst their own people at their own speaking events. They're like, oh, the demographics are switching in Texas. Eventually it'll become a Democrat state. Oh, as we need these migrants and more of them come in and they end up voting, they're going to vote more for the policies we like. They admit it, but when you call it out, they're like, oh, you can't say that. That's racism. By the way, it's the same. I saw Republicans are saying if Kamala Harris becomes president, it would be our first DEI president. And people are like, that's racist. And yet Democrats fully admitted, many of these same people that focus on race in the Democratic Party, Biden needed to choose a black woman as vice president. So when they are advocating for it, it's like, oh, yeah, absolutely fine. But when you say, oh, so you specifically pick someone because of their skin color and their gender, they're like, how dare you? You can't say that. You can't say that. I do have some gray hairs, I know. It's getting more every day. At least I have hair in my chin. Look at this. Ah! So they just lie. They just say, oh, no, the illegals coming in. Come on. There's not a border crisis. There aren't a bunch of illegals coming in. Well, we need them because they're better than you anyways and they work hard. But they're not taking your jobs. They're doing something different. And the economy would be crushed. And yes, they enrich every society they're in. But we don't want them in our backyard. But trust us, in your backyard, it's fine. They're great in your backyard. Don't send them to Martha's Vineyard, though. Don't do that. We can't support them. Send them to the poor red areas on the border. Send them there. Yeah, send them to, yeah, that sounds good. And they already can't vote, but it's racist to enshrine in law, federal law, that you have to prove citizenship to vote, even though we say that that's what we want. But then Chuck Schumer says, oh, and ultimately the goal is to get them to citizens to be able to vote. And we're going to go against any law put forth to ensure election integrity that illegals can't vote. And they do this shit all the time. The economy's great. It's doing great. And I even talked about strategically how this was a mistake. Going back 2 years, I've been saying this. Because there's a lot of Democrat, like, believe it or not, Even though I'm in a deep red area, I have many friends that are Democrats, including people that live in this area where I'm at. And people are struggling. Like, inflation's really hurting people. And inflation's always going to hurt poor and working class people more because you use a higher percentage of your total income to pay for basic necessities like your electric bill, your gas bill, your groceries. If you're rich, your grocery bill is probably within the same ballpark as someone who's middle class or poor class. Now, you might be eating more lobster, more caviar, but in general, you get the idea. So maybe a rich person only spends 1% of their disposable income on necessities like groceries. But a working class family might spend 40%. So if that increases, say 30%, 20%, over a 4-year period, that hurts them significantly. And when their raise was only 4%, then their purchasing power is significantly diminished. That's what happens. And so when Democrats were saying greatest economy ever, that doesn't just say to people like me, like, dude, no one's coming to help you. It also says it to Democrat voters. Because they're like, well, what's the chance that someone's going to help me if the people I'm voting for are telling me I'm crazy that the economy's actually doing great? And I said this was a mistake for years. We're closer to World War III than we've been probably any time since the Cold War. The Middle East is on fire. All of the stuff they told us foreign policy would happen if we elected Trump in 2016 that didn't happen is now occurring under Biden. And I still go back, not to beat a dead horse, but this is why I think that the admissions, or the debate there last Thursday was so important. You know, and I talked about, I wish I had the gentleman's name in front of me, I don't, but this guy who wrote this argument, or this article, and he called it the common knowledge game. And that's, everybody could know something, but until there is a breakthrough that it becomes admitted common knowledge, we still all pretend that we don't know. So even though there were people like me and many other people that are on the right that were calling out Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline since 2020, which has only gotten worse, the Democrats all knew it. All the people I debated knew it. All of the media people knew it. All the media Democrat people knew it. The Democrat pundits knew it. The Biden administration knew it. The Democrat politicians knew it. They all knew. And they just said, no, Republicans pounce. They're lying to you. They're just lying. And then it was like all of a sudden Biden got dementia at the debate. Up until that point, if you watched the media, you would say, oh boy, they got tricked. Oh, that poor media. Let's assume at face value that that's true of the media. What good are they then? If the president of the United States has severe cognitive decline, and it's been there for 3.5 years, and they had no clue until they found out at the exact moment that everyone in America saw it on a debate, then how deep do you think the media was digging into the Biden administration? Isn't that the whole point? Now, this is something that people get wrong with me. I don't have a problem. Well, let me rephrase that. There are attacks from the media against right-wingers, against Trump, against other people that I think are ridiculous, like spreading obvious lies like the Fine People hoax. But I don't mind an antagonistic press to people in positions of power, including to people I support. For example, my favorite politician was Ron Paul. I don't mind a media that's going to aggressively look into the policies of Ron Paul and decisions that Ron Paul's made. That's perfectly fine with that. Same with Trump. I just want that to be reciprocal. I don't want it anytime it's an outsider, anytime it's someone who's seen as outside the establishment, the media decides to go knives out. Then when it's someone that seems pro-establishment like Biden, all of a sudden it's kid gloves. And that's exactly what's occurred. It's that and again, so much of this is the obvious double standard. Same with the treatment of the FBI. The FBI decides they want to aggressively investigate every president. I'm not really for that, but fair enough. I guess that's better than the status quo. Instead, what they do is they go with kid gloves to anyone that they favor, just like Chuck Schumer said. And the people that they don't like Donald Trump and the people surrounding him, they go after as aggressively as possible. Yeah, sorry, Sparky, I'm on my phone. So the same people that told you with a straight face, and I mean people I debate, people like Destiny, many other people that I've debated that said they didn't see significant cognitive decline. They didn't see it. Some of them are still saying that. That's what's hilarious. They can't get their narrative, and that's all that matters to them. They don't care about the truth. They don't. The truth is totally irrelevant to them. All that matters is power. They don't give a shit. If you could go to them and say, look, if you tell the truth, your candidate will lose, but if you just blatantly lie, then your candidate will win, they would take that every time. I wouldn't. I might say, look, I'll tell the truth, but here's why I still think that my candidate's preferred. They won't do that. And so they're trying to get their narrative straight where half of them see the writing on the wall that Biden's looking like he's not going to do well against Trump, so they desperately want him out. Not because they think that he would be a bad president or he's currently a bad president, not because it's the right thing to do, but because they want their side to win. And they think this gives them the best chance. And the other side, the other half are like, no, we think that Biden's inevitable. And so any calls for him to step down or pointing at his cognitive decline is just helping Donald Trump. So we can't do that. We all have to get behind Biden. Now, all of us could see that Biden has severe cognitive decline. We could all see it. We've all known it forever. And they gaslit us and said that that wasn't the case. The same people that did that gaslighting are the same people, by the way, that told you there wasn't a border crisis. 2021 under Biden, no border crisis. 2022, no border crisis. 2023, no border crisis. 2024, there's a border crisis and it's Trump's fault. That's their argument. Oh, Biden at the last minute pushed forth a bill that would have solved everything, but Donald Trump sabotaged it. That's their argument. It just says, bed and breakfast, you make both. They're flying next to each other. And I do make the bed and breakfast. Those people are also lying to you about the obvious double standard when it comes to lawfare against Trump. They'll look at you with a straight face. I don't see the double standard. Really? Everyone in Hillary's investigation got immunity. They deleted subpoenaed evidence. No one faced any criminal prosecution whatsoever. The FBI agent said they knew that some of the people talking to them were lying. We could see others, such as Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedin, who said to, in the 302s, in their interviews with the FBI, they had no knowledge of Hillary's server until after her tenure as Secretary of State. Yet we could see in emails that that's not true. As far back as 2009, they were aware of it. None of them charged with lying. None. Jamal Bowman, not charged with lying to police. None of these people. The ghostwriter for Joe Biden, when he found out there was a special counsel that was going to be looking into evidence, what's the first thing he did? Deleted the audio tapes. None of them get charged. But when it comes to everyone surrounding Trump, even if it has nothing to do with what they're allegedly investigating, Russiagate, etc., they just pretend, oh, I don't see the double standard. It's all good. It's all good. Even when there's obvious bias, like the agents that are in charge of the on-the-ground interviewing, like Peter Strzok saying, we need an insurance policy to stop Trump. Still not good enough for them. Nope, I don't see it. I don't see it. Thanks so much, Cockatiel. I'm just radicalized by online politics, mate. You need to touch grass. Who do you think's more radicalized by online politics? The person who does this cathartically and then has a family and goes and spends time with them and just does this on my downtime? Or the loser that's watching someone like me talking about being radicalized by politics? Now, Cockatiel, I understand the difference between me and you is, even though I might have a very small audience, at least there's people willing to hear my opinions. With you, you're just some anonymous online person that no one gives a shit what your opinions are, so you feign that you have some big brain take like, oh, politics, you just need to touch grass, when you know nothing about me. Now, I do know about you, though. You're someone who tries to cover for the fact that you have nothing interesting to say by saying cliche shit like this that literally no one in the world gives a shit about. At all, right? And I would guess, because you're someone on here with an anonymous name with these shit opinions, even here anonymously, my guess strongly is that it's probably very similar in your real life as well. You probably do a lot of grass touching as you're out there by yourself because you don't have anyone who wants to associate with you, because if you carry yourself like you are in this chat, then you would be a completely unfun, uninteresting person to hang out with. But thanks so much for your input, Cockatiel. I'll save you the trouble of having to deal with me anymore. Thanks. Oops, wrong person. There we go. What's up, Dark Knight? So, interesting, though, how the gaslighting attempts are going. So, we'll look forward to that big boy press conference. So, I don't know how long I have here, so I figured I'd talk a little about this debate tomorrow night. I'm at my work office. Yeah, my work computer is not doing well, so phone it is. So tomorrow night, Wick reached out to me and wanted to know there were two topics he was interested to see if I'd be willing to debate. The first topic was, should there be an age limit for presidents? I would guess other. No, Destiny and them won't admit their blatant hypocrisy. No, they won't. Anywho, I I'm not strongly of an opinion on that topic. Should be, like, at 70 years old you can no longer hold office. I would be against that, but I don't feel that it's a very important topic or that strong. For two reasons I would be against it. One, it seems an artificial limitation. I understand having a minimum age, but a maximum age seems ridiculous. If there is a 70-year-old who is extremely competent, or a 75-year-old or an 80-year-old who's very healthy, extremely competent, etc., why shouldn't, if they're the best person for the job, why shouldn't we be allowed to choose them, and why shouldn't they be allowed to run? I think that the better remedy is that we have things like the 25th Amendment, that there are things that say if your health is poor enough that we could remove you from office. The other thing is, this is optimism to the extreme. It probably won't happen, but what if we have like significant medical advances in the next 10 to 20 years that increases life expectancy? Then what? If all of a sudden 70 is like actually pretty healthy, most people are living to 85. Do we set some limit and then 10 years from now, push it back? I just think it's a bad idea. Anyways, not that interesting of an idea for a topic as far as I'm concerned. The other topic I'm very interested in. Now, Wick worded it strangely. He was like, do you think that like institutions are corrupted? Yeah, I do. I think the media is corrupt. I think the intel agencies are corrupt. I think academia is corrupt. I think much of our medical industry is corrupt. Yes, it's a significant problem. That's something that I argue quite frequently. And I think those institutions actually collectively sort of control the direction our country goes governmentally and culturally. Now, I don't think Destiny's. I don't know. I don't think Destiny might be paid by a political PAC or something, but I don't think. I think they're paying him because of the positions he has. I think that Destiny hates Trump. Everyone's looking into this way too hard. Destiny hates Trump. Pisco hates Trump. Wick hates Trump. Hutch hates Trump. I'm Really Important hates Trump. Dylan Burns hates Trump. That we've talked about this many times. Their core political belief is I hate Trump. They're willing to sacrifice all other political beliefs they have, and they may have them. They may be pro free speech. They may be pro military expansionism. They may be pro socialized medicine, etc. All of those are secondary to I hate Trump. That's what it is. They've drank the Kool-Aid that Trump is the worst person ever. He's Orange Hitler. They hate him. That's it. They're willing to put all other opinions, so it doesn't matter. They could come on and blatantly lie and say, I don't see anything wrong with Biden, because it serves the ultimate goal of we must beat Trump no matter what. No, I don't hate Trump. That's it. So that doesn't mean that none of these people are being paid. But no, I think the vast bulk of them. Now, there are obvious people like Harry Sisson. He's a Democrat operative that's getting paid. That's obvious, right? But I think most of these people that you see, they may be getting paid, but I don't think that their opinions are changing that much. Ironically, someone like Conor is also someone who hates Trump. But I also think that he shared a lot of hatred and corrupt beliefs about the Biden family, etc. I think once he started getting paid, he toned that down. Toned down the corruption of the Democrat, because he seemed to be both sides are corrupt, blah, blah, blah. And then once he got paid, but I would put the chances of Biden not being the nominee slightly higher, like 52, 53%. But anyways, so the panel tomorrow, I think the way Wick worded it was, are our institutions corrupt beyond repair? Now that's an interesting way. So there's several ways to look at this, right? What does beyond repair mean? Well, some of them, for example, I don't think the FBI is able to be fixed. That doesn't mean that the powers that the FBI has, for example, investigating crime syndicates, drug cartels, etc., shouldn't exist. That's not what I'm suggesting. I think Vivek has a good plan for this, where he would spread those people out with state departments, the U.S. Marshals, etc., and then get rid of a lot of the people in positions of power and bureaucratic. But I wouldn't be opposed to eventually creating a new type of FBI that started from scratch with the clear goal of making sure that they're reined in as much as possible. So, with an institution, our media, is it corrupt beyond repair? Like many of the newspapers, like, do you trust the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, ABC, even Fox? It's so bad. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be a media, though. That gap will be filled. Right now, you see it more with like people on Substack, citizen journalists, people acting as sort of a media on social media. Who knows how long it would take to become corrupt again? Wasn't it Jefferson that said that people should revolt every 20 years? I mean, there's truth to the idea that as things, I mean, Scott Adams talked about this on the show the other day. Any intel agency that is basically not controlled by corrupt people like Stalin will eventually control and own the people that have oversight over them. That's just inevitable. That's what'll happen. Is the medical industry corrupt beyond repair? No, the medical industry is going to continue to exist. The current paradigm that we have has caused so much distrust that there need to be radical changes. So it's interesting, what does corrupt beyond repair mean? And then and it kind of goes along with what I'm saying there. There are institutions, thank you so much, Retro Guy, 50 pounds. You're a deeply moral man and admirable principles. Buy your son something nice. The world needs more fathers like you. Thanks for your patience. Thank you so much. Means a lot. I will tell you exactly what I'll be getting my son. He has a tablet that he's able to play little games on, and I think his broke. So it's just a real rudimentary thing, but I think we're going to be getting him another one. Lester Diamonds 499 says, he can't drop out of the race. He'd have to be simultaneously declared unfit to be president and replaced by Kamala. Impossible. No, that's not true. The Democrats would have no problem saying, well, we just don't think he could make it another 4 years, so we're going to remove him. He has a heart condition, but he's still medically competent to be president now. You're right. Those of us that see through it will call out the blatant hypocrisy and lies, but fire tablet on Prime? Okay. So, the other thing is, when you say, it's difficult to say like every institution is corrupt. I'm not saying that. For example, I think that the pharmaceutical industry has a lot of corruption in it. Does that mean that I don't take like aspirin? No, I take aspirin. Does that mean that I wouldn't trust, some small surgery? No, I'm not saying that. So it'll be interesting. Now, the problem is, well, it's not really a problem. It's funny how these things work out. So I believe the panel is going to be 5 people, all right? Me and 4 others. How many of those 4 do you think will roughly be on my side, if you had to guess? So Wick's moderating. Wick does okay moderating. So 4 other people. So you would expect 2 on 3, 3 on 2, or 2, and then someone in the middle. Yeah, the answer is 0. That's what it's going to be. So the only person I don't know on the panel is someone named Paralakt. Paralakt, maybe? Never heard of them. I checked out their X feed. They seem to be a centrist that hates Donald Trump, that trusts the media, that seems to be critical of people saying that Joe Biden has cognitive decline. Then here's the rest of the panel. Conor. Okay. Econoboy. Okay. And then Brianna Wu. So we got the Progressive Victory Pack super team against me. I would recommend they get 5 or 6 more people. I'm perfectly fine with it. No problem. Now, if I'm honest with you, I would love to be at home and have some prep time. Not because I'm incapable of arguing the side, but it would be nice to have definitive evidence. For example, if I say, yeah, look at the corruption of the CIA. Here's 7 color revolutions they did between the years of 1980 and 2010. It'd be nice to have that. It would be nice to have specific incidents, dates, etc., to be able to pull up. Unfortunately, I'm literally going to be at work, away from my work computer, until a half an hour before the debate. Yeah, Brianna claimed in private messages to me that they were no longer they were vetoing being on any panels with me. Fine by me. Now, my intention, depending on the debate, my intentions are different. So, for example, when I was on the right-wing panel with Conor and Jebtan and Tiberius D, I told everyone, including them, in my opening statement and beforehand, I'm coming at you fucking guns blazing, I'm going to insult you, blah, 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 but I know you could all handle it, so that's what we're going to do. That was supposedly centrist right-wing infighting, whatever, right? And the nature of that debate was like, what is a real conservative? And people accusing people of not being real conservatives. That's one thing, right? When I went in, it wasn't a debate, but when I went into Wick's panel the other day and blew up people, that wasn't really a moderated debate. My goal going into this debate is to not go in being an extreme asshole. I'm not going to go in screaming. If that's the treatment I get, then that's what I'll reciprocate with. I don't have a problem with that. Perfectly reasonable. So if I go in and they decide that it's going to be name calling and you're a fucking idiot and blah, 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 I assure you I'm better than them at that game, would be more than willing to jump in on that game. If they want to keep it more on the issues, that's fine. With one exception, I will, even though it is not particularly on topic, it's tangentially on topic, I will ask them what their opinions are on Biden's level of cognitive decline and when they first realized it. And I want you to look out for the fact, Econoboy, for example, that'll be there, his answer the first time when I asked him was, well, what do you mean cognitive decline? I think he's just old, etc. Look for how these people, maybe with the exception of Conor, will try to downplay the cognitive issues of Biden or will make excuses for why they didn't talk about it earlier. And then watch how they defend institutions. Right? Watch how those two things happen simultaneously. It'll be a lot of fun. I think it'll be interesting. So, I'll have to write down like areas. I think obviously there's a lot of distrust in institutions with COVID. For me, I know everyone's seen the video I did. Thank you so much, Russell. $20 super chat says, always enjoy your streams. Glad you're there to represent us against the authoritarian left. Thank you so much. Always. Thank you. For me, when medical professionals, when the mainstream narrative of medical professionals coming out was things like this, well, COVID's really bad, but you know what's worse? Racism. So you can't go to work, and you can't go to your grandma's funeral, and you can't have a wedding for your daughter, but you can go to the Black Lives Matter rally. If you go to the Trump rally, you're spreading COVID. But if you go to the Black Lives Matter riot, no, it doesn't spread there. That's it for me. Done. Absolutely done. But Rob, the medical professionals say, fuck you. Fuck the medical professors. That's my honest answer. I don't give a shit. Just like the FBI, and I don't trust them, that doesn't mean that everything they say is wrong. For example, if there's a serial killer and the FBI arrests them and says, here's all the evidence, and they could absolutely be telling the truth about that. I just no longer believe them on their word. For example, I don't trust CNN. But if CNN says Biden was in Delaware today, and here's footage of him on the plane in Delaware with a bunch of people, then yeah, he was probably in Delaware. So it's not so simple as, if the media said it, it must not be true. But why would you ever believe them without proof at this point? And even though he's not in the debate, it would be interesting to hear Wick's thoughts, because Wick, I'm gathering from seeing a lot of his posting on X, is sort of like a lot of people in the media aren't being journalists. They're just attacking Biden with stories that aren't true. And it's ridiculous. And it's like, how do you think that could happen, Wick? Now, the truth is, somewhat there, they are reporting largely the truth about Biden's cognitive decline, but not for journalistic reasons. They didn't wake up one day and say, oh, we're going to critically cover Joe Biden. That's not what's going on. They're acting as propagandists for their political side. And they're betting that Biden is hurting their political side, that removing Biden would be better to stop Trump and for them and their allies to maintain power. So they're not reporting the news because all of a sudden they said, you know what? We just spent 12 years being blatant propagandists, going against Trump, going for all of his opponents, blah, blah, blah. But now we're going to be journalists. 100 and something days outside the election. Now we've decided we've got our conscience again. That's not what's happening. So the question I have for people like Wick is, well, do you trust that institution then? The panel, Vita, is someone named Parallact, who seems to be a centrist that thinks that the stories of Biden's cognitive decline are blown out of proportion and hates Trump. Conor, Brianna Wu, Econoboy. And I think that's it. But, you know, when they told you, when the official narrative was, it's a debunked conspiracy theory that the virus could have came from Wuhan. Yeah, conservative carnage, you could say that, but Wick will say, well, I just worded it that way. That doesn't mean I believe they're corrupt. Or there's a little bit of corruption, but that doesn't mean anything. But it'll be a fun panel. I have to say, it's a topic that I'm interested in, so. Why is it always 4v1? I don't know. Most of the time I prefer it that way. I think most of the time when I'm given a partner, they want to take things in a different direction. I'll tell you who I thought was a pretty good partner the last couple times was Lactoid. I enjoyed him as a partner. You know, I like Gibbs, but I feel like Gibbs is arguing in a different level than me. Gibbs is almost arguing like a meme shit poster type guy, which is fine, but it's not really what I do. Yeah, Vita, Brianna did tell me that, but apparently they're going to be on the panel, so whatever. So, I don't know. Thank you. Yeah, it's an iPhone 14, I think. 15, maybe. I don't know that Wick would reach out to Andrew. I don't know if they have a relationship that Wick would feel comfortable asking Andrew to be on a panel. But yeah, Andrew's obviously a good partner. But even me and Andrew take things in slightly different directions. But I think we mesh well. Because both of us know when the other's making a good argument and to step back. You know, like, for example, I'm not trying to shit on Gibbs, but when I'm doing this panel and it's me and Lactoid basically against Pisco and we're talking about the New York case against Trump, and Gibbs starts off on, oh, Pisco, your evidence from the National Enquirer, that's fucking stupid, and blah, 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 blah. That's exactly the Democrats' argument. The argument is Trump's team went to the National Enquirer to try to buy and bury stories, right? So Gibbs isn't really making a good argument there for our side. He's just ranting for 3.5 minutes about the National Enquirer so that everyone, the Democrat in the panel is like, yep, exactly. Yep. Why would Trump go to these people? You're right. They're not our witnesses. They're the people that Trump went to. You know, and so it's like, so often, I don't mind the 1-on-4 as long as I get a near equal time to talk. So, you know, I think that it'll be fine. But, you know, I don't know, maybe it's tough because the centrists like Conor that sometimes might be half on my side, what makes him a centrist is trust in the institutions. And you have to understand, like, people like Destiny, that's what they are. And I think Brianna's in that cast as well. They're institutionalist Democrats. They support these institutions. So they're not the same as sort of the super progressives that are like, burn it all down from the river to the sea. They're not those people. I think the debate will be on all of my channels tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. I have to double check, but I'll put a tweet out. I think it'll be 6 p.m. Eastern. Even a one-on-one with me and Brianna. Well, if it's polite tomorrow, maybe that'll be the case. We'll ask. Look, I've sent out private messages to people like Destiny and asked if they wanted to debate in the Biden election stuff. I don't know if he didn't see the message. I sent out a message to Tim Pool's team to see if I could be on there. Haven't heard anything back from them. I'm not big on spamming people, so I'm not going to keep at it. I send the invite. People see it or they don't, and they choose not to respond. Yeah, Ben Wingardner was good. We did have great chemistry on Tim Pool's show. I would love, I think I would do well with someone like Glenn Greenwald. But as it is, I don't mind standing on my own. Would Destiny understand that the same institutions would cannibalize him on a dime? No. Most of the people that support these institutions only assume that they'll be working on their side. For example, I saw Dave Smith say this about Piers Morgan the other day. Piers Morgan was going on about how, we do need the ability to censor people off social media, blah, blah, blah. And Dave Smith was like, all it would take was for him to get the Alex Jones treatment for like 3 weeks, and he would change his opinion. When you are part of the party, right? The Communist Party, it comes with all sorts of privileges, and you assume all of those apparatchik that come with that will only be targeted at people you don't like. So you're okay with it. You never assume it'll come at you. And then when it does, it's too late. And even if you read the Gulag Archipelago, like, there were people in these gulags serving like 10, 20, 30 years in these gulags that would be like, okay, the party was wrong to come after me, but I do trust that they're right about everyone else. I mean, that's what happens. So when you listen to them, many of them truly do think Trump's a threat to democracy. How do they rationalize the fact that this is the same shit they were saying in 2016 about Trump? He's a threat to democracy. He wouldn't give up power, and blah, blah, blah. And it was all bullshit. But Rob, he didn't give up power. Really? So Biden's not in office? How would I rate Dave Smith as a debater? I think Dave largely debates similarly to me, where I don't think that I'm a big philosophical debater. So I'm someone who's sort of, I don't know what you would call it, like normative debating. Like, I see shit that's happening day to day in the world and I talk about that shit. I think that's how Dave is. So Dave will see, like, they locked everyone down in COVID, and then the people that locked us down didn't embrace the same lockdowns. They went out and went about with their lives. And he says, fuck that. No. Dave sees the corruption of governments and authoritarianism. And he has a healthy distrust of them, which what makes him, I would say, a libertarian. But he was not very good when he debated Andrew. It's sort of defining the core philosophical principles of what makes him a libertarian and what does it mean to be libertarian. I don't know that I'm great at that stuff. I think I'd be a little better than Dave did there, but I'm not a libertarian. But I think I would be a little better. But I'm admittedly not super well read. So I haven't read Mises and all of these people. I just haven't. Who's my toughest opponent? Depends on the subject, right? So, in general, I think Destiny can be a tough opponent because he argues similarly to me, and I think he's effective. I think I usually get the better of him, but I could say that in general. When it comes to legal matters, I think Pisco is difficult to argue against. When it comes to economic matters, I think Econoboy is difficult to argue against. I'm trying to think of any other specific. I had someone ask me once, who would be like the person I wouldn't. Thank you, John Kell. Just support bro for $5. Thank you. Thank you, Conservative Carnage. I think I've won pretty much every time. In my opinion, I thought I did better than Destiny pretty much every time I debate him. But it is difficult, and you have to be prepared. Andrew's very difficult to debate when it comes to issues of morality and culture. I think because I'm not a complete ban all abortion, life begins at conception. I'm close, but because I'm not like for getting rid of the morning after pill, I think not Zen's forehead, but Zen Shapiro would be a very difficult matchup because I think he's very persuasive when it comes to the topic of abortion. I would debate anyone within reason, right? There are only certain things. I give almost anyone a chance, right? So if I don't know you, chances are I will debate you. Once I debate you once, there are several reasons that I would be uninterested in debating you again. If I thought the quality of your argument made it worthless to have another interaction with you again. If I thought that the repugnancy of your arguments meant that I didn't want, like I have zero interest, for example, in debating someone on the concept of minor attracted persons being legitimate or something. I'm gonna be out because it'll be hard for me to contain myself. So what's the point? But I think the let me think. So yeah, those are people I wouldn't debating. If debating someone leads to personal negativity in my life, like if I debate a person once or twice and constantly their community's flagging all of my YouTube videos and getting my YouTube channel near banned or contacting my employer to get me fired, then I'm probably not going to be interested in debating them again. Even if it wasn't directed by that person, if that community's so toxic that it's going to jeopardize my livelihood, probably not interested. Sure, Medieval Mike. As a human, I would say. I think that so that I would debate anyone, and I would re-debate people frequently. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not gonna lie. I like debating people with bigger audiences, and I like debating people that are more talented and know more about what they're talking about because I think that's more entertaining and interesting for me, and hopefully for the audience as well. To me, the only times that I feel really nervous about well, I always get nervous when I debate someone, even if it's someone I know I could correct, but that's just who I am. When I did policy debate in college, sometimes you'd debate the same team like 3, 4 tournaments in a row, and I'd win, and I'd win, and I'd win, and it wouldn't even be close, and I'm still nervous just because there's a little bit of nerves in getting up and talking in front of people, and you'd always fall flat in your face, but then you just have to remind yourself, what's the worst that can happen? So what, you lose an argument, no big deal. To me, the ones that would really make me nervous, I think a nightmare opponent for me would be someone on an issue that I think is very controversial, that I would disagree with the person with, but I know they're a phenomenal debater. So for me, I think the nightmare debate that I wouldn't want to have, I would do it. But I'm telling you right now, I would be guessing I would lose the debate, even though I suspect I'm on the right side of the issue, would be debating Jared Taylor. I think Jared Taylor is one of the smartest, well-articulated arguers out there. And if you don't know Jared Taylor, he's basically a white nationalist. And phew, every time I've seen him debate someone, it's just been a slaughter. So I'm not a white nationalist. I've argued against them. But he's another level. So those debates make you a little nervous because you're like, you don't want to debate a topic that you have deep, sincere beliefs on that you know you're in trouble going in. Jared from Subway, right? So that's, people have asked me before. That would be, now I'd be happy to debate Jared Taylor or to talk to him. I'm gonna have to end here soon. How was Phil Kerpinen as a debater? Phil I've never debated against Phil Kerpen. Phil Kerpen would be on another level than me. I've heard stories about Phil. I don't know how much I could say. I knew Phil through my coach. My coach was friends with Phil, and I don't know if they debated against each other or if they just knew each other in the debate community. But I heard a lot of stories from my coach about Phil. And Phil is a like legitimate genius. Like, I'm a normal dude, and like, not to be too humble, I think I'm a reasonably smart guy. Phil's like a genius, like perfect SAT score type genius. Like, I had like a 1200. Phil would have had like a perfect. And he is just, he's an incredibly nice guy. He's funny and would have been a phenomenal debater. I don't know what accolades he got necessarily in debate, but I know that he was better than me. Sam Cedar, I don't watch a lot of. I would love to debate Sam Cedar. I think Sam employs what I've seen is a lot of sort of rhetorical tricks, and oftentimes. All right, y'all. I know what's going on. There's a work emergency, so I'm going to go. I'm going to have to clock back in and deal with this. But look for me tomorrow around 6 p.m. Eastern time, and I'll be doing that panel debate. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll talk to y'all soon. As always,